Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up in the next 30 minutes, electioneering heats up in India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds poll rallies in Karnataka and Telangana in his mega South India push. Russia's Vladimir Putin wins presidential election in the biggest ever landslide in post-Soviet history. India's Prime Minister Modi congratulates Putin on his win. Israel to offer Hamas 6-week Gaza truce in return for 40 hostages in mediated talks in Qatar as troops raid Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital. And South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol joins US Secretary of State Antony Blinken to discuss measures to counter digital threats to freedom as Seoul hosts the third summit for democracy. First up, let's get you the latest on what's happening at home in India in a build-up to the world's largest democratic general elections. As campaigning is picking up, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a rally and a public meeting in the southern state of Karnataka. The state's ardent supporters of the BJP, that's the party the Prime Minister Modi belongs to, welcomed him in the city of Shivamogga. Addressing the gathering, the PM accused the opposition, that is Congress, of loot and corruption.
यहाँ इनकी लूट इतनी बढ़ गई है कि सरकार चलाने के लिए पैसे तक नहीं बचे और इस लूट में भागीदार बनने की होड़ मची हुई है। कोई यहां सीएम इन वेटिंग है, कोई यहां फ्यूचर सीएम एस्पिरेंट है, कोई यहां सुपर सीएम है, कोई यहां शैडो सीएम है और इतने सारे सीएम के बीच एक दिल्ली के कलेक्शन मिनिस्टर भी है। कांग्रेस की इस करतूत का नुकसान कर्नाटका के लोगों को उठाना पड़ रहा है। कुछ ही महीनों में कांग्रेस की सरकार ने कर्नाटका की साख को बहुत बड़ा धक्का लगा दिया है। मैं कांग्रेस के प्रति कर्नाटका के लोगों का आक्रोश देख रहा हूं।
Earlier, the Prime Minister addressed a public meeting in Telangana as well. The PM said he is ready to take on those who proclaim to put an end to Shakti. He said he is a worshipper of Shakti and those who represent it, such as mothers, sisters and daughters. Prime Minister Modi is currently addressing multiple rallies and meetings in southern India. The PM will also hold a roadshow in Tamil Nadu's Coimbatore later in the evening.
मैं भारत मां का पुजारी हूं। मैं आप शक्ति स्वरूपा सब माता बहन बेटियों का भी पुजारी हूं और जिन्होंने कल शिवाजी पार्क में इंडिया अलायंस ने अपना घोषणा पत्र शक्ति को खत्म करने के लिए किया है, मैं इस चुनौती को स्वीकार करता हूं और मैं इन शक्ति स्वरूपा माताओं बहनों की रक्षा के लिए जान की बाजी लगा दूंगा।
Southern state of Tamil Nadu's Chief Minister M.K. Stalin and the state's Congress President K. Selva Purinthai held a meeting to discuss seat sharing for the upcoming general elections. The Indian National Congress has formed an alliance of 40 political parties for the upcoming elections. And Tamil Nadu's Member of Parliament and DMK leader Tiruchi Siva said the opposition alliance is going to win in all 40 seats of Tamil Nadu and Puducherry.
No, DMK is already in the field. We are working, our cadre are working, and we have been campaigning. Too many number of public meetings are being held, and now the takeoff will be for the elections. And we are sure that all the 40 seats, Tamil Nadu and Puducherry, will be won by our alliance.
Now to foreign shores, Russian President Vladimir Putin has secured a landslide win in the presidential election, cementing his rule for another 6-year term amid his invasion of Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin is all set for another 6-year term in office as he secured a landslide win in the country's presidential elections. He called the result as a proof of Russian people's trust as the turnout exceeded 70%.
87 million of our dear voters took part in the election. That means the turnout was record high and unprecedented. It has never been as high before. It is 77.46%.
Putin reiterated Moscow's position on the Ukraine conflict. He said Russia is waiting for talks on a French proposal which calls for a ceasefire in Ukraine during the Olympic Games, but said he would keep Russia's interests on the front line into account.
We are ready to discuss any issues, but as always, within any situation, we will proceed from the interests of the Russian Federation and, of course, the situation at the front line.
Amid strong Western reactions surrounding the election and the conflict in Ukraine, he dropped a stern warning that any interference from Western troops will prove to be a catalyst for Third World War.
I have already said this, and it is clear to everyone that this will be just one step away from a full-scale World War III. I don't think anybody is interested in this.
Putin also spoke about opposition leader Alexei Navalny and plans about a prisoner swap before his death in prison last month.
Unfortunately, what happened is what happened. On one condition only, I said, we will change it so he doesn't come back, let him sit there. But things happen. There's nothing you can do about it.
Случилось то, что случилось.
If President Putin completes his full term by 2030, he'll surpass Joseph Stalin to become Russia's longest-serving leader over more than 200 years. Bureau Report, DD India. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in a social media post, congratulated Vladimir Putin on his re-election as the President of the Russian Federation. Prime Minister Modi further in his post looked forward to working together to further strengthen the time-tested, special and privileged strategic partnership between India and Russia in the years to come. Now, in the latest from the Russia-Ukraine conflict, 2 people were killed and 4 more injured in Ukrainian shelling of the village of Nikolskoye in Russia's Belgorod region. Attacks on Belgorod have taken place frequently since 2022, but escalated in the run-up to Russia's presidential elections, which concluded on Sunday. Ukraine has claimed that its air force has destroyed 17 out of 22 Russian-launched drones overnight. The statement follows Russia's claim of continued Ukrainian firing during the presidential election in border towns. Stalled discussions aimed at securing a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas are expected to resume in Qatar as Israel is sending a high-level delegation headed by its Mossad chief on Monday. The talks are designed to secure a 6-week truce under which Hamas would free 40 hostages. Israel says this stage of negotiations could take at least 2 weeks. The talks in Qatar would mark the first time both Israel and Hamas leaders have joined negotiations since the start of the holy month of Ramadan. Now, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reaffirmed his determination to launch an offensive in Rafah. Netanyahu said Israel would push into Rafah, the last relatively safe place for Hamas in Gaza. But he also asserted that Israel will not leave civilians trapped when its forces begin the assault on the southern Gaza city.
Our goal in eliminating the remaining terrorist battalions in Rafah goes hand in hand with enabling the civilian population to leave Rafah. It's not something that we will do while keeping the population locked in place. In fact, we'll do the very opposite. We'll enable them to leave because our consideration for reducing and minimizing civilian casualties has guided us and will continue to guide us in the future.
Following Netanyahu's statement on Rafah, the Israeli military said on Monday that its troops have been conducting a precise operation in the compound of Gaza's Shifa hospital. Israeli army also released a video of the operation. IDF spokesperson Daniel Hagari said senior Hamas terrorists have used the hospital to regroup and command attacks against Israel.
The IDF is conducting a high-precision operation in limited areas of Shifa Hospital, following concrete intelligence that demanded immediate action. We know that senior Hamas terrorists have regrouped inside the Shifa Hospital and are using it to command attacks against Israel. Our targeted mission isn't just an operational necessity, it's a global imperative. Our forces have undergone specified training to prepare them for the sensitive environment and complex scenarios they may encounter. Our war is against Hamas, not against the people of Gaza. We seek no harm to the civilians that Hamas is hiding behind.
The Indian Navy has said that it is going to bring 35 Somali pirates who hijacked a merchant vessel to India for prosecution. The Navy rescued the merchant vessel Rune and its 17-member crew in a major operation that went on for 40 hours and led to the surrender of the pirates. The Indian Navy has been constantly working on anti-piracy operations in the region.
We are investigating all suspicious vessels which have a piracy trigger and this ongoing operation. So while doing this, we came across this MV Ruin, which was being used as a pirate mothership. So we had deployed our ships, so the pirates have surrendered. There were a crew of 17 personnel on board, 7 from Bulgaria, 1 from Angola, and 9 from Myanmar. So they're all safe, and the ship is now being sent back to its next port of call.
Afghanistan's ruling Taliban said on Monday that Pakistan carried out 2 airstrikes inside Afghan territory in which 8 women and children were killed. A Taliban spokesperson strongly condemned the strikes on Afghanistan's soil, calling it a violation of the country's sovereignty. The Pakistani army and the Foreign Office did not immediately respond to a request for comment, but then after that they said that they have been seeking action from Afghanistan against elements of terrorism, but repeated outreach has not borne results, which is why the action today. Let's now take a look at other stories making news today as well. Air Force Chief of South Korea, General Lee Yong-soo, called on the Indian Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhary in New Delhi today. Both Air Force chiefs discussed issues of mutual interest and means to further enhance cooperation between the two air forces. A bilateral tri-service humanitarian assistance and disaster relief exercise between the US and India is scheduled on the eastern seaboard from the 18th to the 13th of March. Indian Navy aircraft, Indian Army personnel and Indian Air Force aircraft will be participating in the exercise. Indian Air Force's fighter jets and cargo planes conducted a trial run on the highway airstrip in Korisapallu in Andhra Pradesh. The highlight of the event was the successful landing of an N-32 cargo plane on the airstrip. And still to come up in this edition of DD India Live, increasing violence in Haiti spreads to the Dominican Republic. North Korea draws fire from South Korea and neighbor Japan along with the US for test launching a barrage of missiles. And groundbreaking 3-day Startup Mahakumbh 2024 gets underway in India's national capital, Delhi. India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibility. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday, 8 p.m. only on DD India. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, increasing armed conflict in Haiti has not only engulfed the capital city Port-au-Prince, but also the neighboring Dominican Republic. The border between Haiti and the Dominican Republic has been closed for days, but Haitians were allowed into a farmer's market in the border town of Dajabon last week under the watchful eye of border guards. Many people are struggling to leave the violence-torn country, where anti-government gangs have already shut down the international airport. North Korea fired multiple ballistic missiles in Sea of Japan on Monday. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who was in South Korea to attend the third summit for democracy, along with his South Korean counterpart, condemned this move. Take a look. North Korea's belligerence continues unabated. Pyongyang fired multiple short-range ballistic missiles to the east of South Korea in the Sea of Japan on Monday. This move comes at a time when U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in South Korea to attend the third summit for democracy. Reacting to the missile launches, South Korea's Defense Minister Shin Bok-sik said that North Korea's provocations will not go unpunished.
I believe North Korea has continued to repeat provocations because they don't have much to lose by making them. We welcome dialogue with North Korea, but our government maintains a firm policy of holding North Korea accountable if it makes a wrong decision.
Blinken met South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol on Monday on the sidelines of the summit. Blinken assured Yeol of the US's support for peace and stability in the Korean peninsula against North Korea's provocations. Yoon called for close cooperation with the US to enhance democracy. Blinken also had a discussion with his South Korean counterpart, Cho Tae-yeol. The two discussed bilateral issues, including ways to strengthen the South Korea-US alliance. Both have strongly condemned North Korea's missile launches. Earlier, speaking at the opening of the third summit for democracy, Antony Blinken said technology should be employed to sustain democratic values against efforts of authoritarian and repressive regimes.
As authoritarian and repressive regimes deploy technologies to undermine democracy and human rights, we need to ensure that technology sustains and supports democratic values and norms.
The ties between US and South Korea keep moving north. The 10-day annual joint military drill between the two nations concluded last Thursday. With the strategic military alliance, the two allies hope to check Kim Jong-un's aggression. Jant Das's report for DD India. The European Union announced a funding package worth $8.06 billion and an upgraded relationship with Egypt as part of a push to stem migrant flows to Europe that has been criticized by rights groups. The agreement, which was announced during a delegation visit in Cairo, aims to bolster collaboration in renewable energy, trade and security while providing grants, loans and other assistance over the next 3 years to support Egypt's struggling economy. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, along with Prime Ministers of Italy, Greece, Austria, Belgium and the President of Cyprus, met with Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in Cairo on Sunday. US tech giant Apple is in talks to build Google's Gemini artificial intelligence engine into the iPhone. Apple and Google are in active negotiations to let Google's Gemini AI power some new features coming to the iPhone software this year. The two parties have not decided the terms or branding of an Apple AI agreement. Apple has also recently held discussions with the Microsoft-backed OpenAI and has considered using its model. The country's biggest startup Mahakumbh is being held in New Delhi's Bharat Mandapam to give global wings to India's startup ecosystem. The aim is to ramp up India's startup ecosystem, taking it from number 3 to number 1 in the world. India is bringing in a new startup policy for the deep tech sector as well. DD India's Ajay Mishra has filed this report.
New Delhi's Bharat Mandapam is all set for this year's first mega startup event, India Startup Mahakumbh 2024. Over 50,000 business delegates, more than 1,000 investors from India and abroad, over 1,000 startup exhibitors and more than 500 incubators are participating in the Mahakumbh. India has the world's third largest startup ecosystem, encompassing AI and SaaS, agri-tech, climate tech, deep tech and biopharma among 10 focus sectors. The Startup Mahakumbh runs from the 18th to the 20th of March and will showcase India's solutions to the world.
All of you must actually first become an AI company. First become an AI company and then do everything else. Reverse, re-engineer, completely become an AI company. That will make you transform. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This Mahakumbh, to my mind, is a great, great event. It really brings a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for India.
After the launch of Startup India through SIDBI, a fund of $7 billion or 56,000 crore rupees has been facilitated for startups. The government has also a fund of funds of $1.25 billion or 10,000 crore rupees. The Secretary, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, R.K. Singh, said a new policy for deep tech will be made public soon.
Government of India is in the process of creating a separate, dedicated deep tech startup policy. The policy paper is now in the final stages of discussion, of interministerial discussions, and we hope to bring it forward soon. And after that, we will hopefully move towards creating a dedicated a fund of funds again, since government wants to do it in an arm's length manner. We don't want to sort of start picking winners and losers in business, which is why we created this concept of AIFs and fund of funds.
Over $140 billion have been invested in India's startup ecosystem to date. More than 130,000 startup companies are working on solutions to various problems. India is making every effort to take its startup ecosystem to a higher level through Startup Mahakumbh. The Startup Mahakumbh is likely to be organized every year. Over 5,000 new startup entrepreneurs are expected to attend the Mahakumbh. In 2023, startup funding has fallen to its lowest level in 7 years. Compared to $25 billion investment in 2022, only $7 billion investment was made in 2023. With India driving growth and facilitating innovation, expectations are high that investment in startups will return in 2024. ASSOCHAM, NASSCOM, Bootstrap Foundation and IVCA, in association with India's Ministry of Commerce, are organizing this Mahakumbh. It aims to give wings to the country's startup ecosystem on a global scale. Ajay Mishra's report, DD India.
Time now to get you some sporting updates as well. Hockey India has named 27-member Indian men's hockey team for the Australia tour. The team will be led by Harmanpreet Singh and vice-captain by Hardik Singh. The first match of the Australia tour will take place on the 6th of April in Perth. The tour will also be a litmus test for the team in their preparations for the Olympic Games in Paris 2024. Chief coach Craig Fulton has opted to go with the almost entire core group in order to give players optimum chance to showcase their potential before the final 16-member team is selected for the Olympic Games in Paris. The Indian team will leave from New Delhi on the 1st of April and will return on the 15th. Malaysia's Olympic Council has proposed holding a downsized Commonwealth Games in 2026 as the country considers replacing the event's original host. Mohammad Nazifuddin Najib, the Secretary General of the Olympic Council of Malaysia, also proposed several measures to reduce costs, such as using standard hotels and accommodation facilities to house athletes and officials instead of building a dedicated games village. The offer has received mixed responses in Malaysia amid concerns over spending costs and lack of preparation time. Sports Minister Hannah Yeoh said the matter would be discussed in the cabinet this week before the government makes a decision. Australia's southern state of Victoria pulled out of hosting the 2026 event in July 2023, citing a projected cost blowout.
This is a golden opportunity that we should consider, because there will be no other chance if we want to host the Commonwealth Games, Asian Games or Olympics, they will be really high on cost for us to host. We also feel that this can be a downsized games. For example, it doesn't have to be 15 sports, it can be 10 sports, and then we have a smaller opening and a smaller closing ceremony.
That's all we have in this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.
In a world that never stops,